Am I live? Am I sharing? All right. Jody, I just wanted to say that was amazing, the work you guys are doing. I will need to connect with you later. We're actually working on some research with Early Learning Indiana, so love to get your perspective on some of these things. My name is Terry, so howdy, how are you doing? Let's see. So I'm with a company called Collabo Creative, and we help organizations build fiercely loyal customers and teams. And so how we do this is, we'll get into that, but it's really about looking at people's experiences and digging deep into that so that we're able to connect business with people again, because sometimes it gets lost. So a little background about me, because it leads into why we do what we do. So I'm originally from the state of Hawaii, so some beautiful pictures for you. I love surfing. And how many of you have been to Hawaii before? Amazing. Okay, so did you love it? Was it great? Right. Did you feel welcomed? Did it have this kind of feeling like you just feel like you belong, people were nice to you, right? There's this kind of warm feeling, and people always talk about it as the Aloha Spirit, right? Yeah, there you go. Right? We talk about the Aloha Spirit, and a lot of times you think of aloha, they say it means hello, goodbye, and I love you, right? The way that I think about it is that aloha is a spirit, and it's an attitude, and it's really about how we welcome everybody. And it is that feeling of welcoming people in and building those relationships, and then we call extending who we call our ohana, or who our family is, right? And we don't see family as just my sister, my brother, my mom, my dad. This is a true fact, but if you go to Hawaii and you get close to some of the local folks, you'll be called auntie or uncle, because it's an extension of family, and it just signifies how strong our relationships are and how strong those bonds are and how we want to love on everyone, right? That's what Aloha Spirit is. And I love this image with all the, you guys call them flip-flops, we call them slippers, all the slippers, because it doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter what kind of work you do. It doesn't matter what you look like. We all wear the same kind of shoes, and we all take them off at the door, right? We're all the same, we're all equal. And that's what Aloha means to me. Now, I bring this up and I talk about this because how many of you have worked in like a corporate setting? Anyone? No corporate? Okay. And how many of you felt burned by corporate life? A lot of times, right? A lot of people feel burned by corporate life. It's just like, oh, you feel like you're just a number. You feel like you're a workhorse maybe, or maybe you're just like sitting in these awful meetings and you're just like, oh my gosh, when's the day going to be over? And what about as a customer? Have you ever felt like just a sale, or they just want to get your money? My favorite thing right now is they're always trying to upsell you, and I'm just like, I try to get me to buy the first thing before you sell me on all the other things, right? But you just feel like a number, and we lose that connection, that relationships that we need to be building between companies and people. And that's why I do what I do, and that's why our company does what we do. Because essentially, I used to work in an institution, and I was told to my face that I was treated like a second-class citizen. And I was just like, wow, okay, well, that's good to know. And it's not right. Like the way that companies and the way that businesses are starting to treat people is not right. And a lot of times, what are the common solutions to, like, if you're having a bad experience in your company, or if you're having a bad experience as a customer, what should you do? Start a new company, right? Start a company, go off on your own, do your own thing, or find a new business, right? Work with somebody else. Well, we believe that businesses must do better, because as much as the world needs entrepreneurs, and as much as we need more businesses, which is fantastic, we also need good businesses. So what we do is we help businesses do better, be better at serving the people that they should be serving. And so we want to work with companies that want to serve people better, from their customers all the way through to their team members. And that's what we look at: customer experience and team member experience, and how are we blending the two so that everyone can have a more ideal and joyful work life. Because really, we spend at least half our lives working, right? We should enjoy that. And as a business or an organization, you should be providing better service to your team members, your employees, as well as your customers. So that's what we do. So I can tell you how we do this, right? But the best way to always explain something that can be a little abstract is to tell a story. So I'm going to share a story of one of our larger organizations that we work with, that we've partnered with, and we've been partnered with them for probably about 3 or 4 years now. Now, they came to us originally because about 4 years ago, they had a aging volunteer base, right? So they're a nonprofit, and so they depend on volunteers, and that volunteer base was aging out because the demographic of their volunteer base was women in their 60s, right? And so it's only going to be so many years before you have no more women. They're going to be women in their 70s and then 80s, and then you have no more elderly women. So they needed to get younger, I don't want to say blood, get younger volunteers into their volunteer base so that they can constantly be renewing, and then also integrate their experienced volunteers with new volunteers. But that was the challenge that they were experiencing. So what we did was we initially helped them to first dig deep, because the first thing you need to do if there's a problem is to understand the problem, make sure you know what's going on. So we helped them to do some research by we don't do surveys, we don't do a lot of quantitative studies. We do very deep, engaged insights research. So we are meeting with people one-on-one. We're doing interviews. We're observing. We're shadowing. We do a lot of the qualitative research that is time-consuming and no one wants to do. That's the work we do. And so what we found was they were initially, by just looking at what they were doing, working internally with their team, modeling their process, and then talking to a lot of their volunteers who have come on or who have left, we found that just looking at their process, they were losing 40% of all interested volunteers. So somewhere in their process, there was a pinch point, and 40% of all the people trying to enroll were just being lost. And they had no clue, they had no idea. So we identified that point, and it was easy, right? Low-hanging fruit, fix that, and then immediately they saw a boost in that enrollment. And then the next thing we were able to identify is by talking to people, you start to find out why they do the things they do. This is something that quantitative research doesn't tell you the why. So we were able to understand why people volunteer and what kind of volunteer needs they had. And so they needed to actually create a new volunteering model because what they had established was not working for people. They didn't want to volunteer in that way. So of course, the company then was like, okay, thanks for the insights. We'll create a new volunteer product. So that's what they did, new volunteer product. And of course you would think that should be the end of the story. New volunteer product, got more volunteers, but no, they ran that and it was horrible. So they ran the new product, they brought in a corporate sponsor, a national sponsor, ran it for the first time, and it was a dismal failure. Their sponsor was there in representation, and they, verbally told the CEO, this was a disappointment, you need to improve. So they had a week to turn it around because they had to run it again the following week. So what we did was we helped them through doing a design sprint and experience prototyping. Within a matter of 7 days, they went from dismal failure to being able to have their corporate representative there the next weekend, and they were amazed. The turnaround that happened, that they had said, this is impressive. The way that you were able to receive feedback, improve upon it in 7 days, and turn this completely around 180 is amazing. And then to top it all off, their engagement scores from volunteers for that event was 98%. So from what we heard from him, he was just like, that's unheard of in the volunteering area, like in volunteer areas, you don't get 98% satisfaction from volunteers. So they were super excited about that. And then so the last thing, because they're on this train, they're moving forward, we want to make sure that we're helping them build that capability in-house, because as much as we love working with people, it's kind of the same thing. We don't want to have to exist, because if companies are able to make their cultures more collaborative and creative, we shouldn't have to be there, right? We want to work ourselves out of a job, which doesn't sound capitalistic, but that's what we want to do. And so our whole goal is, now we've been working with them for 3 years now, just building this culture of collaboration and creativity. And they're getting recognized now from their national organization as an innovative launching ground for new ideas. So it's awesome because it's here in Indiana, right here in Indianapolis. We are the testing ground, or for this organization, this is the testing ground for them to test new ideas out, because their team is able to be more collaborative and creative. And that's why we call ourselves, or people call us, Collabo Creative. So now that I've given you that story, here's what we do. We do insights research, And that's qualitative. Like I said, we do qualitative research to dig deep and get to the root of issues before you try to solve the problem. And then once you have those insights, a lot of times you got to change things. So how do you change things? Well, that's where we do these solution sprints, which is a design thinking approach that enables teams to innovate with velocity, right? Speed and direction, so that you're not just throwing things all over the place, but you're actually moving forward very quickly and with intention. And then the last thing is we want to build you up. Make sure that you build that internal capacity so that your teams and organizations can thrive, right? Not just strive. And that's me. So if you want to learn more, I would invite you to give me a call. My number's not there, but send me an email or visit our website.
Awesome. So as we go ahead and leave your screen up just for a little bit, and we'll get the information here in the comments. But what kind of questions do we have for Terry?
So Terry, could you promote your YouTube channel a little bit and your content that you have out there?
Oh yeah, sure. Thanks for asking. So in order to, because our whole approach is about providing tools and skills, right? We want to help give people what they need in order to improve these skills. And so we have a YouTube channel. It's called Collabo Creative. So if you just go to YouTube and search Collabo Creative, we should come up. And we do a weekly, it's about 5-ish minutes long, just a weekly video on tips and tricks to improve creativity and collaboration in both business and life.
And what's the address for that YouTube channel? How can we find you?
So YouTube has this thing where if you don't have 100 subscribers, you don't get a nice YouTube link. So yep. I have this horribly awful YouTube link, but I can copy it and paste it.
Yes. Okay. Copy it and paste it, put it in the comments, and maybe we can all subscribe and get you to that 100.
That would be awesome. Thank you.
Excellent.
So Terry, I have actually a question and a comment. Mm-hmm. I'm very interested how you are able to convince leadership to give you the time and resources to do a truly qualitative research. Because I have to imagine I'm in a very similar boat with what we do, and that can be very difficult. So I'm curious on how you overcome that maybe pushback that you might get.
Yeah, that's a fantastic question, because absolutely we meet the same kind of challenges, right? And I think more so than anything, it's finding the right leaders. So as much as I'd like to say I can convince any leader that they need this qualitative approach, the truth is they have to see it for themselves. Mm-hmm. So some of the questions that I'll ask though is usually what kind of research they're doing right now, and how are they making sense of that research, right? How are they finding insights about that? So one study that we actually just wrapped up, this was looking at employee engagement. So this company was dealing with extremely high turnover, and they had all the studies. They had all the surveys. They have the engagement surveys, they have the exit surveys, but they couldn't figure out why people were leaving. And when you look at all the data, it said we leave because our pay is too low. So what did they do? Increase their pay by $3 an hour. What happened? Did people stay? No, they actually increased that turnover rate by doing that. And so they didn't know what to do. So they asked us to come in and take a look at what was going on. And what we found, the insights that we found go so much deeper than pay, right? It was actually about the lack of connection and support in the first 2 weeks of work. Like that's what was happening. And that's why people were leaving. People were leaving because they're crying on the job because they're being left there without any support, but nobody's listening to them, right? And so it's hard to deny when you don't have the answers. So that's kind of the question. Those are the questions I ask. It's just like, well, what insights are you gaining from your data? Does that help?
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, our research shows the same thing. People don't leave for pay. The other thing the comment I wanted to make is, a few years ago, I read in Harvard Business Review, I think it was, or there's a very famous saying that culture eats strategy for breakfast. Mm-hmm. And I love that. But somebody suggested a different way to think about it. And as you were describing what you do, this is what I heard, is that, no, yes, culture does eat strategy for breakfast, but really what you want to have happen is for strategy and culture to go to lunch, and that they actually come together. And that's what I hear what you're doing is merging those two so that the development of your culture becomes part of your strategy and becomes more of a tactical type approach as you put those two things together. So I say 2 thumbs up.
I love that saying. I'm going to have to steal that. I'm going to have to borrow that from you. I will quote you on that. Culture
I can't find the paper or the research on it. I've been looking for it for a week and I can't find it. It's not an original thought to me, but I wish it was.
Well, if you do, please send it over. And it's funny that you mentioned that. So if you do check out our YouTube channel, our video drops every Wednesday. So the video we recorded this earlier on, it's just serendipitous, but the video that will launch tomorrow talks about culture and strategy and how culture informs strategy.
That's perfect. That's awesome. I think I found the right link. I went ahead and put it in the comment section. And yeah, boy, as soon as we all jump off of this call, let's give a subscribe, and I'd love to see you push you over that 100 here soon.
Oh, thank you so much.
Well, awesome. Any other questions? I think I've got all your information down there, and by all means, let's stay connected.